Since it's Valentine's Day, we wanted the chance to talk about sex. So we open the floor to you, our audience, to hear your most common questions about intimate activities and your body's health.
Yeah, and we are getting candid about your sexual health and personal questions. So here with all the answers is Dr. Sheila Wijayasinghe. So welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here. We've got some great questions for you. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to dive right in and we're going to ask you some rapid fire questions. You okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so round of rapid fire, here we go. First question. Dr. Sheila, does size really matter?
So it's a great question, but studies that have been done show that it's what you do with it more than what your size is.
Very good. Next question. Is masturbation healthy?
Absolutely. Yes. So what's interesting about masturbation is that what has been found in studies is that it helps your memory and focus, so especially in the elderly, it's really great. It also helps you learn about your own body, what makes you tick, and it's wonderful for your confidence.
Wonderful.
If I have an IUD, can my partner feel it inside of me?
So they should not be able to feel your IUD. The IUD is in the uterus. Their strings hang outside of the cervix, but if your partner feels it with their fingers or their penis, then you should go see your doctor and they can trim them down for you.
Okay, how about this one? Is there such a thing as too much vaginal discharge?
During sex or
Sure.
any time?
During sex.
So during sex, no. So yay. If you have vaginal discharge during sex, that's wonderful. It means that you have good arousal and you produce a good amount of lubrication so it's comfortable. If that persists, if it's painful or has odor or anything else like that that's different for you, then get checked out to make sure it's not an infection. But yes, if you have good fluid during sex, it's great.
Okay, so now that we're done with the Quickie Round, let's move to some more complicated questions, okay? We got a question from Stephanie on Instagram. Stephanie writes, I'm 30 and have little urge to have sex. What's caused this and what can I do to bring it back?
So this is really common. People feel really like something's wrong when this happens, but it's very common and people come and see us in the office, but often people don't. So I first say, go and see your doctor instead of suffering on your own through it. Your desire will change throughout your life. So with new relationships, with any change in your body, with menopause, pregnancy, it'll go up and down. But if it becomes an issue for you and it's affecting you, or often what I see in my office is that there's a discrepancy between partners in drive for both men and women, it's important to get checked out because there's reasons why this can happen. So hormonal issues can trigger decreased libido. Pain with sex can cause you not to want to have sex, understandably. So it's good to get checked out because we can help you with that. Other things, if you have a history of trauma or anything like that, we can also support you through that as well. So there's many different reasons why you might not want to have sex, but get checked out and we can help you through that. The other big thing is that the medications that we give you can decrease your drive, and commonly antidepressants are a common culprit of decreased drive, and birth control is another one that we don't tell patients when we give it to them, but it's important to know that that could be why, and we can change your medication and that might help.
Okay, another question comes from Instagram, and it's from Diane. She asks, when it comes to vaginal smell, what is typical? As I've become older, the smell has become stronger. Is this normal? And does it have anything to do with my sex life?
That's a great question. I mean, vaginas have a scent. We all have our own bouquet, so to speak, which is normal. And the vagina stays at a pH of a little acidic, so there's a little acidic odor that's normal. If it changes or it's associated again with pain, bleeding, anything like that, get checked out because it could be a sign of infection. But we tend to pathologize what our vaginas smell like. We put garlic up our vagina, we do other things, we douche, and those little things make it worse. So don't douche, because that'll actually shift your vaginal flora, the normal makeup of your vagina, and it will make things worse. So let it self-clean itself. It's a self-cleaning oven, as I always say, and don't try to shift it, because that'll actually make it potentially worse. And get checked out if it's a concern.
Okay, so this question will resonate with a lot of first-time moms to be. Here's what Angela wrote, Dr. Sheila. I'm pregnant with my first child, and I have a serious fear that my vagina will look noticeably bigger after I give birth. Is this true?
It's a great question. I think it's a concern that many people have. The important thing, I think there's the difference between the vulva and the vagina. So the vulva is the external part of your genitals, and that's what I think when you say that will it look different? Generally, after birth, it might look a little bit swollen. That will go back to normal and to your pre-pregnancy state over time. internally is your vagina, so that can, and I think the concern that comes up with that is it going to be wider? Is it going to feel like it's not as it's going to be a little bit looser? And generally, initially after pregnancy, it can be a little bit, but the majority of people go back to their size. The vagina is magic, right? Like it can hold a tampon and it can give birth, and it's amazing to see how it can the elastic nature of it goes back to its normal state. If it becomes an issue, though, and it's causing an issue, go see your doctor. We can do Kegels. We can send you to pelvic floor physiotherapy. All of those things can be very helpful.
Great.
This is one that has come up in my circle of friends a lot, and a lot more recently, especially for those who have given birth, and that is pain during sex. So talk to us about that. Is that normal? And if not, what can we do about it?
So pain during sex is not normal. It shouldn't hurt, but it's common. And this is another one of those things similar to desire that people do not address and come in for because they feel embarrassed by it. But especially after birth, your hormone levels have shifted, your estrogen levels drop, especially if you're breastfeeding. And that estrogen is important for lubrication and for keeping the vagina lubricated during sex. And if you're not, it'll be painful. So that's one big cause, and we can treat that. We can help with certain medications. We can help, again, pelvic floor physio can be helpful. Emotionally, the change after birth is huge. And so you're tired, you're not going to want to have sex, right? So these are things that can be contributing that we can also support. Then if sex hurts, it's going to continue to hurt if we don't address it. And it can trigger something called vaginismus, which is when the vagina actually spasms during sex, and that can be very painful. So these are all things that we can get into a cycle if we don't seek out support, and there's ways that we can support you.
So let's talk about pain after sex. Viewer Caitlin asks, why do I get cramps after sex? They feel almost like period cramps. Do you know what this could be?
Yeah, so when we have an orgasm, our uterus actually contracts. So it's almost like an earthquake with little after effects, right? So you have an orgasm and then your uterus contracts, and that might be why you have some pain afterwards. But other reasons why is during ovulation. If you're having sex during ovulation, your body's a little bit more sensitive. Sometimes during your period, it can be a little bit more sensitive, although sex during your period can also help with cramping, which is an interesting piece. It can also be that semen, if there's mixing of fluids, semen actually contains a material in it that causes uterine contractions. And that's why when you're close to delivery, if you want to speed things up, sometimes having sex might actually trigger uterine contractions in a baby. So that could be why you might be experiencing things. If the pain persists, again, if there's any discharge or anything, see your doctor for some support. But if it's really, everything's cleared, you can take a little bit of ibuprofen before and it might help.
Okay, the boys have written in. Greg has written in saying, is it really true that you can break a penis?
So yes, you can. It's a medical emergency if this happens. Generally, the penis, when it's erect, it is filled with blood and it's hard. And if you have some sort of trauma to the penis, or it's shifted in, I'm going to use my hand, sorry, it's twisted in a certain way, it can stay in that position. And that is important to get urgent medical attention because it needs to actually be surgically corrected.
Wow.
It's not common, but it's something to be aware of.
Okay.
Okay, one last question we have from Anna, and Anna wants to know, does a G-spot actually exist?
So that's a great question. So the G-spot's a bit of a misnomer, and there's so much pressure to find it, right? So the truth is that the G-spot, what we know now from really interesting imaging studies is that it's likely a part of the clitoris and the branches of the clitoris. So what we see externally is just like the tip of the iceberg. And the clitoris extends down, there's branches, and the G-spot is likely one of these branches that people feel in a certain spot. But the truth is that not everybody can feel it, and not everybody gains pleasure from that spot. So what I suggest to my patients is, like, let's not focus on a G-spot. Find your spot, name it after yourself, whatever you need to do, and let's go for it there. But the G-spot itself is a bit of a misnomer.
Wow. If only sex ed class was like this.
Yeah.
Like, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Sheila. Appreciate you. All this information will be up on our website right after the show. We're back right after this. It's great.